Bai Yueguang from Li Shi left her a son. The descendant disappeared. To provide the child with a complete home, she found me, a man who is 3 times like Bai Yueguang. We have been married for 3 years now. I've always been the guy who supported both mother and son. Gentle, attentive, kind, and sympathetic. The most important thing is that my emotions have always remained very stable. When I went to pick up my child from school, I heard her and her classmates talking as if I was just her nanny and that her real father would be back soon. Deep down, I am happy, let him come back, but at least I can get my money back. Today is Friday and I was waiting for Li Xia to pick up the baby. It's their traditional week-long vacation alone with their son. Li Xia usually takes her out to eat. This has been going on for 3 years now and she never misses these meetings. But today, Li Xia told me that she was going on a business trip and asked me to pick up Han Yu in her place. I hurried from the hospital straight to the kindergarten. The classroom was empty except for 3 or 4 children waiting for their adults. Han Yu found herself in the center of everyone's attention, surrounded by boys who were admiring her bracelet. Han Yu, you have such a beautiful bracelet. Where did you buy it? I'll ask Dad to get me one too, the children admired. Han Yu was very proud of it. My dad designed this piece of jewelry especially for me. You can't buy it anywhere else. Your father is so wonderful, he can bake bear-shaped cookies and make bracelets. If he were my dad, everything would be perfect. I want a father like that too. He's so kind, whereas mine is always stern. Except for Fridays and rare special occasions, I usually pick up Han Yu, and the baby always arrives home much earlier than everyone else. I'm afraid that because of his character, he is sometimes a little lonely in kindergarten. To make friends, he often brings them sweets he has made himself. That's why Han Yu was always so popular, and although he never called me daddy, everyone around me thought so. I did bake the bear cookies myself, but I don't know how to make bracelets. Quietly moving to the right corner of the classroom, I began to observe what was going on. The next second, Han Yu loudly declared, "I'm not talking about him. He's not my father, he's just my nanny. My real dad is a brilliant jewelry designer." The children showered her with more compliments and I stood there, frozen. Later, I asked Han Yu directly about his father. Standing at the back door of the classroom, I watched the boy and there wasn't a huge storm in my soul. To some extent, I didn't care, although a bitter aftertaste remained. Perhaps it was a bit too much. Ever since I started dating Li Xia, caring for their family became my primary responsibility. The job, of course, wasn't much different from being a nanny, but Li Xia and I were in a romantic relationship. After all, it wasn't supposed to be just a paid job, right? At best, Han Yu was the child of Li Xia and that same genius designer, Han Tian. But after Li Xia completed her month-long contract, Han Tian suddenly disappeared, leaving no official status. As Han Yu grew older, Li Xia became increasingly aware of the imperfections of our family. Wanting to give her child a proper home, she began looking for a backup plan. I once found myself locked in an unspoken rivalry with Han Tian. From the very first day I appeared, Han Yu knew perfectly well that I wasn't his father, and I had no intention of replacing his biological parent. After all, Li Xia and I are just a temporary couple for 3 years. She has a backup husband, Han Yu has a support system, and I have 20 million in my account. I had no reason to refuse because I really needed the money. On the way back, I pretended I hadn't noticed anything and, as usual, asked Han Yu what he'd like for dinner. I knew my place well and knew how to stay out of trouble. After listing a few vegetables, Han Yu swallowed so appetizingly that I couldn't help but smile. Besides, I really was a pretty good cook. Over the 3 years of our marriage, both mother and son had become noticeably accustomed to me. Returning home, Han Yu immediately locked himself in his room. I didn't care. I calmly went to the kitchen to prepare dinner, then called him to the table. Even before I knocked, laughter came from the room. Han Yu was talking on speakerphone and his voice was clearly audible over the speaker. I recognized Li Xia's voice and next to her was a boy, little Han Yu, who was chattering loudly to him and calling him daddy. I remembered how my classmates envied the bracelet. I used to think Li Xia had bought it herself to please her daughter, though that had never happened before. And even though Han Tian had been gone for many years, Li Xia carefully maintained the bond between him and the child. Apparently, by the time Han Tian returned, everything should have been ready for the family's safe reunion, so this bracelet could really only have been designed by him. It took 6 whole years before Li Xia finally found him. Today's business trip turned out to be just a prelude to a reunion of love. How strange that I unwittingly disrupted their family idyll. I quietly set the table and put the phone down. After confirming that Han Yu had finished his call, I knocked on the door and invited him in to eat. After dinner, I set about cleaning up, but Han Yu remained seated at the table. He looked naive and very similar to Li Xiu. The same pale skin, only Han Yu's eyes seemed even more expressive and purer. His gaze vaguely reminded me of someone from my past, though I couldn't quite place it. Sitting at the table, I smiled softly at him. "Perhaps you'd like to pass something on to Uncle?" Han Yu merely blinked stupidly. Eventually, he silently went off to his room. I didn't care, I wasn't intruding. My job was simply to take care of his well-being and health. Everything else didn't concern me, and I didn't try to control it. Later that evening, I sat on the living room couch and cried over the film when Li Xia came back. My whole face was swollen from crying. At that moment, the door opened. Li Xia returned. She was a little shocked by my appearance, and I, embarrassed, quickly rose to my feet. The first thing she said to me was, "Your nose is swollen from crying." Then she asked softly, "Why are you back early?" and stepped toward me. "Look at my clear eyes." Her tone seemed surprisingly light. "Why aren't you asleep yet?" I silently pointed to the TV screen indicating the movie. She looked at me with a slight sigh. She had already reached out to touch my head, but at that moment her phone rang sharply. It was Han Tian. Unable to answer in the room, she went out onto the balcony. I slipped quietly into the kitchen, deciding to leave only after Li Xia finished talking. "We're going to the wedding next week. Han Tian has finally returned." Our agreement was about to expire. I naively assumed Li Xia would quickly agree to everything. After all, my replacement was no longer needed. But Li Xia's expression suddenly darkened. "Are you seriously considering a divorce?" "Next week I'll be free." After these words, he no longer cared about my previous prohibitions against entering Han Yu's room. I felt lost. Though Li Xia and I were supposedly a couple, in reality it felt more like a boss-subordinate relationship. He'd provided me with the money to live on. Now the contract was expiring and he'd successfully found a replacement. Shouldn't they have terminated the agreement quickly so we could go our separate ways? Why the fuss? On Monday morning, Li Xia dropped by the company for work, so there wasn't much opportunity to discuss the divorce. Before leaving, he suddenly handed me a small box. "This is just some small change I accidentally picked up at the auction." Rushing to take Han Yu to the garden, I casually tossed it into my bag along with some fresh cookies. At the entrance, we were immediately surrounded by children. "Thank you, Uncle." I silently walked past the kids into the classroom and then asked the driver to take me to the hospital. When I entered the ward, Tang Nguyen stood by the window and smiled warmly when she saw me. "What's delicious today?" I shook the thermos in my hand. "Your favorite, rice porridge with marinated eggs and lean meat." We sat down by the bed and started eating. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos. "Look, this is our little house in Yunnan. I've already got everything ready. Next week, when you're discharged, I'll take Tang Nguyen there. See if there's anything I can do to change this. I'll finish everything and come see you right away." Tang Nguyen didn't respond, but merely nodded silently, taking the bowl. I turned to the window. Through the glass, I could see a piercingly blue sky, across which the wind slowly pushed thickening clouds. My fingers trembled slightly. "Yao, we've finally gotten out of this mess." Looking at those silvery white clouds, I suddenly asked Tang Nguyen, "Do you think she'll like this small courtyard?" Tang Nguyen froze for a moment, her gaze softening. Smiling, she replied, "Tang Nguyen loves places where the wind blows best." I smiled too, so everything was fine. I just sighed quietly. We sat shoulder to shoulder by the hospital bed, silently gazing at the drifting clouds, the green trees, and the sun. Watching other people's destinies pass us by, I felt like an ancient old man visiting someone else's life. "How I'm always in a hurry," I whispered to myself. "Tang Nguyen, we don't have to worry about those times anymore." There were no more hardships in this world. We had become a true family. 10 years ago, when I came to pick up Han Yu from school after lunch, I heard the devastating news from the teacher. The boy had been taken away that morning. The teacher said the child had left with his parents. As I walked back to the car, I kept wondering if I should have called Li Xia and double-checked. Although the likelihood that Han Yu was indeed with Han Tian was high, you can't let your guard down with children. I had my finger hovering over the screen when I accidentally opened Li Xi's WeChat feed. An unread notification caught my attention. The post had been published just 10 minutes earlier. 9 photos from the resort. The central shot shows the happy trio against the backdrop of the beach. Everyone is dressed in matching clothes, and Han Yu's happiness was evident on his face. It was the first time in 3 years that I'd seen him smile so sincerely. Li Xia, too, looked completely different next to Han Tian, soft and peaceful, a perfect, complete family. After what I saw, there was no longer any need to call. During those days when the mother and child were away, I took a short vacation and spent all my time at the hospital with Tan Nguyen. We were relaxing together, leisurely enjoying the silence. It was already late at night when I was interrupted by a sharp phone call from Li Xia. The voice on the other end of the line sounded weary against the backdrop of the cold rain. Yao, can you come to the children's hospital immediately? Li Xia explained that Han Yu hadn't been sleeping well lately. Moreover, the sudden change in weather had brought on a high fever. They were now in the hospital, but the girl was crying inconsolably and wouldn't listen to anyone. I looked out the window at the impenetrable darkness. I had to get up and pack my things. Han Yu's sleep quality was always terrible the moment we were outside the house. She would constantly wake up in the middle of the night and start crying bitterly. I used to have to rock her for hours, whispering lullabies all night long. It's gotten easier over the last couple of years, but she's still attached to her bed. If I had to spend the night elsewhere, I always took her favorite pillow, blanket, and pajamas were a must. Otherwise, the child wouldn't sleep a wink. Luckily, I was used to thinking ahead. My sense of responsibility was telling. When I reached the hospital, I heard Han Yu's muffled, broken cries in the hallway. At first, I thought Han Tian was there. But only Li Xia and a tearful Han Yu were in the room. Upon seeing me, Li Xia gasped in amazement. "You've arrived." The little boy lay on the cot, his face flushed, either from the fever or from tears. After handing the child over to Li Xia, I quickly made the bed with the usual linens, laid out the familiar pillow, and changed Han Yu into his pajamas, after which I picked him up. Holding him close, I spoke softly, and the baby gradually fell silent. His tiny hand clutched my clothes, and he sleepily called me father. I touched his hot forehead. For a moment, I was completely confused. I wasn't his father, I was just a hired hand. But after grumbling for a few more seconds, Han Yu finally fell asleep. The nurse started an IV. Li Xia and I sat down on the sofa in the corner of the room. Li Xia handed me a glass of water and quietly said, "Sorry for waking you up in the middle of the night." I shook my head. "It's okay, that's my job. In the future, if you take him somewhere to sleep, be sure to take his pillow, pajamas, and blanket with you." Li Xia looked at me intently. "Have you opened the box I gave you the other day?" "Not yet. What's important in it?" I took out the velvet box from the side pocket of my bag. The lid opened, revealing a dazzling array of diamonds. Li Xia covered my hand with his. "Yao, let's not get divorced, okay?" I had no idea what had happened between him and Han Tian. Why did he suddenly decide to leave? He'd waited so many years to finally propose, but I knew for sure it wasn't about love at all. Li Xia was too rational and pragmatic. All her actions were dictated solely by cold calculation and self-interest. However, I didn't want to delve into her motives. I had long since gotten used to not wasting time on empty speculation. Carefully freeing my hand, I left the ring on the table. "Li Xia, we were just a fictitious contractual couple. The agreement has expired. It's time for us to end it." He sat motionless as if he didn't want to hear my words and desperately tried to justify himself. "Yao, if it's about Han Tian, you can put it out of your mind. He's finished once and for all. This trip was just a final meeting at his request. We're no longer in touch. I'm so grateful you've been by my side all these years, and Han Yu can't cope without you either. Maybe we should just continue living as before." I looked into Li Xia's eyes and coldly replied, "No, I don't care at all about your affairs with Han Tian. But we can't continue. I once agreed to this marriage to save Tang Nguyen. Now Tang Nguyen is healthy and each of us has begun our own lives. The very place where the wind blows awaits us." Li Xia clearly didn't expect to hear such a firm refusal. His eyes flashed spasmodically. "Yao, have you really not felt anything for me after all these years?" I chuckled softly. "Of course I did. I'm sincerely grateful to my generous employer. And it was the honest truth if it weren't for those 20 million. Tang Nguyen and I would have died long ago. That's why I've spent all 3 years protecting their peace, giving them everything I have. But my duty ends here. I think I've made myself perfectly clear." Li Xia swallowed hard. "Don't rush to answer right now. It's already late. I'll ask the driver to take you home to get some sleep, and I'll stay here. Hanyu developed mild pneumonia and a high fever, requiring him to stay in the hospital. Li Xia immediately moved his work calls directly to the ward. He kept constant vigil by his son's bedside. Han Tian never showed up again. I continued to cook at home every day and bring food. On that fateful day, I was just about to feed Hanyu. Suddenly, a call came from another hospital. I was told that Tang Nguyen's blood pressure had spiked, he had a brain hemorrhage, and the doctors were fighting for his life. The cup slipped from my hands and shattered on the tile floor with a loud crash. The sound startled Hanyu, and just then Li Xia appeared in the doorway, rushing to me to ask what had happened. I couldn't stop shaking. My head was ringing with emptiness, and I desperately needed air. How could this have happened? After all, when I visited him just yesterday, everything was perfectly fine. He was supposed to be discharged tomorrow. Life was finally starting to get better. How did this happen? I clutched Li Xia's sleeve tightly. Tears welled up in my eyes, and this news alone instantly drained my remaining strength. I was put in a car and taken to the People's Hospital. Li Xia helped me out and immediately ordered 2 nurses to look after Hanyu. I managed to call my parents, and they rushed over as quickly as possible, taking me to the building. The doctor explained that Tang Nguyen had suddenly lost consciousness right in the clinic courtyard. The blood supply had been cut off in the most dangerous part of the brain, and the doctor told me to prepare for the worst. A thunderstorm raged outside. A torrential downpour replaced the stifling heat of the previous day, filling the air with heavy, sticky moisture. After an 8-hour operation, Tang Nguyen was still hanging on by a thread. 2 rays of light had once lit up my life, but now they were fading before my eyes. I methodically, as if in a fog, dealt with all the organizational matters. Li Xia tried to offer help, but I silently pushed him away. On the day of the farewell, the sun was blazing, blinding. I stood on the street, clutching the urn with the ashes, and through a veil of tears, I heard the footsteps of random passers-by. This endless day finally came to an end. The weather was beautiful, and I automatically looked up at the blinding sun, but inside, everything had frozen. Why is this sun so hot and I feel so unwarm? I don't know how long I stood there motionless, unable to cope with the pain. Everyone around me had their own goal, their own path. And I didn't know where to go anymore. I had no one before, and now I was alone again, home. Li Xia must have noticed my state and quietly eased me into the car. Returning home, I immediately fell into a heavy sleep filled with fragments of memories. I was awakened by an insistent ringing sound. In the dimly lit living room, someone sat beside my bed, peering into my face. A thin strip of light fell from the slightly open door, illuminating the guest's silhouette. I didn't have the strength to lift my hand, but he grabbed my wrist. His voice was quiet. "I'm so much like him." These words instantly brought me back to my senses. I tried to pull my hand away, but he only squeezed it tighter. "Tang Yao, if you want, you can treat me like him. I can do for you everything Tang Wan did." Tang Wan, the man who stood by my side for 10 whole years. As soon as I said that name, my heart sank again. He pulled me out of the pitch darkness, but burned out too soon like a celebratory firework. After a brief flash of light, darkness set in. How did our story with Tang Wanyu even begin? We were everything to each other, sisters, close relatives, and our very first love. I was lucky enough to end up in a shelter when I was just 13. Conditions there were terrible, food was always scarce, but at least there I was protected from the dangers of the streets. After some time, the shelter underwent reform, conditions improved, normal food and books appeared, but the anxiety did not go away. Wherever I went, I felt like someone was watching me. My things in my room were always being rummaged through, and sometimes at night I'd wake up to someone touching my feet. I was afraid to complain to anyone because this night guest was the director of the shelter himself, whose antics I had had to endure for 2 years already, until that very day, when he called me into his office with obvious intentions. Having broken free, I ran as fast as I could, screaming for help. The shelter was located in a remote area, far from civilization, and there were almost no people on the streets, only the occasional passerby. The principal shouted after them that I was his problem child with a nasty temperament, and no one wanted to interfere. Looking back, I saw in horror the pursuer right on my heels. And suddenly some girl threw a bottle towards the director and shouted at me, "Run faster." She asked if I wanted to run away with them. Without thinking, I grabbed her outstretched hand. She pulled me onto the departing bus just as my pursuer gave chase. The nightmare was behind us. Handing me a ticket, my savior pulled me into the very back seats. There was already a girl my height sitting there who looked at me with wide eyes of surprise. "Little sister, why did you go to the toilet and bring back a tail?" It later turned out that they were sisters. Fleeing domestic violence from her father, the older one took the younger one out of the house. We had no idea where the bus was headed, but the girl still smiled. She believed this car was taking us toward a bright future. Countless times she repeated to me back then, "Everything will definitely be okay with us." Our first night in a new city. The three of us were crammed into a tiny old supply room, sharing a single packet of instant noodles. Her sister and I ate the noodles while he drank only the empty broth and meekly gave up the only bed for us. None of us could sleep from a mixture of elation, confusion, and clammy fear. We had escaped the abyss, but no one knew if the nightmare would return. Suddenly, he sat up on the mattress and asked if we wanted to change our names. Since today was our first day in the world, there had to be some kind of sign. We accepted the first names right away, but the last name presented some difficulties. No one wanted to go back to their old surnames, and I didn't know my real one. Finally, glancing at the sugar half lying on the table, he suggested, "Let's all be Tang, Tang Yao, Tang Wan, and Tang Nguyen." Thus, a chance meeting linked our destinies with a single surname and became the beginning of our family. The next day, Tang Wan went off somewhere, and when he returned, he announced he'd found us a place to live. He'd managed to save up some money, some he'd secretly snatched from my father the day he'd escaped. Even though the sum was small and the rented room was cramped in an old, run-down neighborhood, it was our own home in a strange, unfamiliar city. Once we settled in, we immediately got to work. At first, no one wanted to trust us teenagers with serious work. I distributed flyers, washed dishes in eateries, and took on any odd jobs around the house. Tang Wan was 2 years older than me and Tang Nguyen, but he seemed to be able to do absolutely everything. He cooked, washed, and took care of us with incredible tenderness. Smart and friendly, he quickly won the hearts of the supermarket workers, helping them stock their merchandise, and the local saleswoman often gave him treats. We worked tirelessly. We might not be rich, but we never went hungry. Tang Wan always radiated optimism, repeating that things would only get better. In this cruel whirlpool of life, we warmed ourselves in the greenhouse of our small family. Life was slowly settling into a routine, becoming stable and calm. Then one day, Tang Wan brought home a piece of meat and announced from the doorway that he had great news. He'd met a teacher at work. She offered to help me and Tang Nguyen continue my studies at school. At first, we all balked. Tang Wan hadn't liked studying since childhood and wasn't exactly a bright young man. He'd also become seriously interested in makeup artist courses at a beauty salon and dreamed of pursuing a career in the field. I felt bad about leaving him alone, but my sisters all pitched in and with their combined efforts convinced me to go to school. Tang Nguyen tried to persuade me, "You're smart, you'll definitely get into college." Tang Wan also said that I should study for our shared future, but I knew they didn't need payment for their care. They truly loved me like a brother. The world is vast, but often there's barely room in a person's heart for two kindred spirits. And yet, at the same time, this world can be incredibly small. Literally, a couple $100 can turn random street urchins into a real family. In the end, we divided up the roles. They continued working, and I went to school, earning extra money on weekends. I got a job as a night usher at a movie theater for 30 yuan a day. It allowed me to combine work and study, and I slowly saved every penny. Once I had saved up the required amount, I immediately bought a folding bed for Tang Nguyen. Since we shared a room, she was always forced to huddle on the hard sofa in the living room, and because she was tall, her feet were always hanging over the edge. She would never have bought it for herself. On the day of delivery, as I was joyfully packing my new outfit, Tang Wan gently stroked my hair, and his radiant eyes were filled with such warmth. "Good girl, now our sister has a normal bed." At that moment, my heart began to beat with incredible force. I was simultaneously infinitely happy and painfully vulnerable. I had no intention of calling her sister. Later, on long nights, sitting at the table with books and brushing my teeth, I would notice Tang Wan settling down on the fold-out bed. It was as if she sensed when I was running low on water and would always fill my glass for me. And when I stayed up late, she'd make me a bowl of noodles and hand me a bag of boiled eggs. She'd always smile at me and tell me I'd definitely succeed. Then I asked her directly, "Why did you take me with you?" She replied that she decided to take me because I didn't look like the dean's son at all, even though many people heard my call for help. Only she extended her hand to me. After my third year of high school, the workload increased exponentially, and I had to study for exams until late at night, especially in winter when it got dark early and the streets were deafeningly quiet. The cold weather didn't let up. Tang Wan bought me a pack of hand warmers and carefully tucked one into my bag every morning, telling me it would make it easier to sit at my desk. Every day, Tang Wan would wait for me at the school gates holding a bottle of hot milk and 2 eggs. She joked that I was just trying to make up for the nutritional deficiencies, and there were countless such moments. My classmates knew her too. She was beautiful, had a knack for conversation, and attracted a lot of attention, especially from boys. Many asked me to give her love letters and gifts. In the end, I had to put a stop to it all. I turned everyone down, declaring that her heart was already taken. That Christmas evening, as usual, she was waiting for me at the school exit. When I saw her, I noticed a guy with a face flushed from the cold, also hanging around the gate, trying to hand her an apple. She not only accepted it, but also took a fried sweet potato. I didn't like this. Walking closer, I silently grabbed her school backpack and pulled her along with me. I didn't even bother asking, "Did someone bully you at school again?" I had to deal with that myself. I admit, I was a little angry, though I tried to pretend I didn't care. "Tang Yan, you're a capable girl, right?" She looked at me, then turned her gaze to the apple in my hand and almost choked on my words. "It's okay to accept other people's apples, but what, I can't fall in love?" She was taken aback for a second, then smiled, and the reflections of distant stars were reflected in her bright eyes. Her voice was soft and deep. She tilted her head slightly, addressing me with a sly, head-spinning tenderness. "Is our Ayao really jealous of my sister?" At that moment, I was shaken to the core. My thoughts were jumbled and I tried to pull away, but she unexpectedly hugged me and I clearly heard her heartbeat quicken. She said quietly, "I just took you away from that classmate who was bothering you and brought you back. I just want you to get along with your friends." Ayao got angry then and refused to go with me next time. The cool evening breeze couldn't cool the heat that flared on my face. From that day on, my relationship with Tang Wan changed subtly, though it was difficult to describe in words. We increasingly caught each other's casual glances and then quickly looked away. Sometimes our hands would accidentally touch and we'd jerk them away as if we'd been electrocuted. The most insignificant details seemed incredibly significant, but no one dared say so out loud. Until one night, while I was blow-drying my hair, Tang Nguyen suddenly asked me a direct question. "Ayao, you're in love with my sister, aren't you? Look, even your face is flushed." She narrowed her eyes. Was it really that obvious? Before I could even get the words out, Tang Nguyen continued enthusiastically. "Excellent. Next time one of my colleagues tries to hit on my sister, I'll proudly announce that she already has a fiancé." I couldn't help but chuckle at her words. To be honest, I wasn't quite sure I could even be called a groom. My birthday coincided with the start of college entrance exams, and Tang Nguyen had just left for a business trip abroad. As I was blowing out the candles, I called her, and she cryptically hinted that she had a surprise for me. "Look in the nightstand," came the voice on the other end of the line. And the next second, just as the candles went out, Tang Wan congratulated me personally. "Ayao, happy birthday." I think my deepest wish was incredibly simple. I wanted to spend my birthday next to Tang Wan every year. We celebrated my 18th birthday together, sharing the birthday cake exactly in half. Returning to my room after a shower, I found the very gift Tang Nguyen had mentioned. Holding it in my hands, I felt a strange warmth within. Tang Wan was waiting for me at the door. Our eyes met and our faces instantly flushed. She locked the door to my room and told me to go to bed early. The rest of the evening was drowned in silence, broken only by the monotonous hum of the old fan in the dark room, which for some reason irritated me. Sleep wouldn't come. Finally, late into the night, I quietly slipped out of the room and into bed with Tang Wan. We were pressed incredibly close together on the narrow single bed. Tang Wan took a deep breath, hugging me tightly. "Can't sleep?" she asked in a whisper when I was already lying in her room. I was actually feeling sleepy, but I nodded obediently. She quietly began to talk about which university I planned to attend, even though I'd long ago decided I'd stay in this city. "All 4 years of study will be expensive, and Li Jiajing and Tang Wan are just wasting your time. No, with your grades, you have to go to a better school. Don't think about money, your task is to study well and I'll take care of the rest," she continued, but I interrupted her, covering her lips with mine. Sometimes she could be too talkative. During our first kiss, I completely forgot how to breathe properly and almost choked. Tang Wan, let me go. I feel strange. I had no idea how to kiss, but I knew exactly how much I loved her. The saving darkness hid my burning face, and for a long time I hesitated to utter a word. She gently touched my head. Yao, you are a very capable boy. You need to go out into the big world, meet new wonderful people, and not lock yourself within four walls because of us. I don't want you to regret missed opportunities later. She always tried so hard to push me forward, and I just desperately clung to that light she spoke of. I hugged her tightly around the waist and shook my head decisively. There is nothing more important to me than you. I'm not going anywhere, I'm staying here. Tang Nguyen, who returned soon after, listened to our plans for the future and only looked at us in surprise. Are you completely crazy? Where are you planning to go? Is it really possible to study in different places just to be together? I couldn't even properly object to Tang Wan, understanding how reckless love can be. In the end, I applied to a northern university. We had to get used to a new city all over again. We had no regrets when we left, having lived in that house for 4 happy years, fully understanding that as long as the three of us stuck together, everything would be fine. Where was our true home? It didn't really matter for student life. Tang Nguyen and Tang Wang worked, and I immersed myself in my studies again, using any free time to find part-time work. Tang Nguyen achieved success and became a renowned makeup artist, sometimes even working with celebrities. I often brought her autographs to university, earning pocket money that way, while Tang Wan continued working in sales. Thanks to hard work and the scholarships I received each semester, the financial pressure gradually eased, and life began to improve. We even made plans for the future. We agreed that when we earned enough money, we would definitely move to a place with a constant warm breeze, plant a garden in front of the house, and get 2 cats. We might not become millionaires, but our lives would be filled with that simple meaning. However, fate decreed otherwise. In her second semester, Tang Wan was diagnosed with a rare genetic disease, so rare that it was virtually unheard of in medical practice, yet it was destroying her body at an alarming rate. The treatment required a huge amount of money. Tang Nguyen threw herself into work with renewed vigor, and I decided to drop out of school, despite all of Tang Wan's pleas and scolding. I won't sit at a desk again. The future may be impossible to predict, but in some situations the choice is clear. I knew that if I didn't stay by her side during this difficult moment, I would regret it for the rest of my life. I simply wouldn't have another chance. My savings were dwindling, so I had to take on even more work, working hard to earn as much money as possible and extend her days. While I was juggling 5 part-time jobs a day, Tang Wan was losing her appetite and eating less and less each day. Having found a job as a kitchen assistant, I tried my best. I practiced cooking daily, mastering new recipes in the hopes that she would at least be able to eat something. I felt helpless, unsure of how else I could help her, especially on the days when Tang Wan categorically forbade me to go to work. Instead, she simply forced me to stay close, silently staring at me for hours with her emaciated, faded eyes. But those eyes still held the same light I had first seen on a windy day many years ago when Tang Wan had suddenly entered my life. The battle with a serious illness claimed the lives of more than 20 children, extending that struggle for only 6 months. Life proved painfully fragile. After Tang Wang's passing, Tang Nguyen and I spent almost every day in a heavy, ringing silence. Suddenly, one person was gone. I found the house empty. No fuss in the kitchen, no annoying conversations in my ear. I thought about this countless times. But no matter what the situation, the only thing that impressed me was the smile on his face and the innocent eyes. He was always full of self-confidence, and I relied on them. I lived through the days after losing Tang Wang. 6 months passed, and Tang Wang and I gradually tried to ease the pain. When I finally felt relief learning that Tang Wang was alive, he cried and said he'd learned he was just as ill as Tang Wang. At that moment, I was surprised by the calm. I thought that if Tang Wan left, then Tang Yao would be dead too. We went to the underworld to be a family. I can't live alone, but God gave me a chance. A month after Tang Wang's hospitalization, Li Xia found me. He explained everything clearly to me. I just need to be her husband. My main priority is to take care of her son. Give me 20 million for 3 years. It seems I grasped at a life-saving straw. I agreed at that moment. At that moment, I realized how much I wanted to save Tang Nguyen. I couldn't stand it anymore. Seeing her cry like Tang Nguyen would truly drive me crazy. if only I could save her. I'm ready for anything. After I married Li Xia, many people privately mocked me, saying I was just a replacement, but I know that I look like Bai Yueguang from the TV series Li Xia, and it doesn't bother me. Even if I were lucky, if I didn't look like her, she wouldn't have chosen me. I kept the fact that she would marry me a secret from Tang Nguyen. But she still knows. She cried 3 times. She told me not to worry about her. She said she didn't want to drag me. I hugged her, trembling. Crying with Tang Nguyen, I thought, I've lost Tang Wang, I can't lose you anymore. At that moment we cried, our heads held high. 2 broken souls became one. In this world, we are the only family. We spent 3 years wandering endlessly through the night. After several treatment attempts, both domestic and international, Tang Nguyen's disease was finally brought under control. The doctor said that in the future, she would only need to take regular medication and undergo checkups. Apparently everything was covered in frost, but everything was plunged into darkness. I had a high fever for 3 days. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. Li Xia said the temperature was too high. The medication's temperature can't be lowered. I can only send a doctor in an emergency. I nodded. A quiet voice thanked him. We all sighed, recalling the events of the previous night in the media. As I sat by the bed, lost in thought, Han Yu arrived. His expression was angry, as if he'd been wronged by his father. "Uncle, are you okay?" I smiled. "Okay, I'm sorry. I scared you then, didn't I?" He shook his head, stood next to me, and didn't say a word. I didn't have the strength to tease him. "But what?" He took my hand and said, "Will you treat me well in the future? You always bring your classmates cookies for your little brother. They all want you to be a father. But I want you to be my father." I'm looking at Han Yu. "But Uncle is going somewhere far away. He can't be your father. When you miss Uncle, you can ask Mom to take you to his house." Han Yu continued speaking. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears of despair. Finally, she quietly said, "I know Tang Wan has left, and I don't want to stay in this city either." After lunch, Li Xia came again. She asked if I could stay for another 6 months. Han Yu really needed me. I shook my head because it was always necessary to say goodbye. I sent her a list of things already done. Inside is Han Yu's habit of staying in the room. After that, I'll take care of her. If everything is done according to the above, there won't be any problems. Li Xia, divorce me. I want to see Tang Wan. I haven't seen him for a long time, 3 years, after I promised Li Xia to be her partner. I placed Tang Wang's ashes in the temple. For 3 years, I was afraid to enter the temple, and now, as a married man, I will be sad to see him in this state. Every time I miss him, I'll peek out from behind the temple. Now I need to go after him. I want to take him and Tang Man. Let's go somewhere windy like we promised, Li Xia sighed. She silently took and signed the divorce agreement. I apologized to her for misrecognizing you that evening. She looked at me. The sound was as calm as the night. Do I really look like her? I shook my head. When I first saw it, I thought my eyes looked a little like hers, but when I looked at the other eye, I realized that was not the case. Li Xia, this is not like you at all. I have never seen her shadow on you. You are not her. No one will be her. My sugar-coated feet are like the moon in the sky, shining like the stars. He has the purest eyes in the world and a heart that loves life more than anything. She is always unique. The day before my departure for Yunnan, Han Tian called me and invited me to meet. It was my first meeting with Han Tian himself. He's more handsome than in the photo, very attractive and handsome. Honestly, I don't understand why everyone thinks we look alike. She and I must feel the same way because she saw me say the first sentence. Who's so blind? Tell her you're my replacement. I'm not that gentle. I thought she was going to talk to me about Li Xia. Honestly, Li Xia and I are just a couple, and we're divorced. He laughed, I know. I just want to see you today. He looked at me for a long time. I was touched. Too bad. Actually, speaking of character. You and Li Xia are perfect for each other. He's as stern as I am, always in a hurry. I've grown tired of everything over the years. I don't understand what he's trying to say. He suddenly handed me a business card. Mr. Tan, I'm here today mainly to thank you. I'm a selfish person, always pursuing my own goals. I don't want to be humiliated by my family and children. I'm indebted to Han Yu. He's a neglectful father, but you've taken good care of him all these years. He was very kind and sensible when we first met. You said you would teach him often. You treat him very well. I am very happy and grateful. This is a piece of my heart. Thank you for your education. Li Xia is his mother. This is my father. Please take him. I got 2 jobs. I'm a little worried about my conscience, so before leaving, I bought a bunch of toys for Han Yu. On the day of the trip to Yunnan, the sun was shining and the breeze was filled with the scent of flowers. I put the sugar bowl and sugar in a warm place. I start packing. The yard has long been tidied up, very clean. All I have to do now is wash it. Just put your things away neatly. While I was cleaning up behind this sugar greenhouse, a letter suddenly arrived. It was a note about the sugar greenhouse. He wanted to give it to me on the day of his departure. The envelope said to wait until he boarded the plane. There was a smile on the envelope. I opened it and wrote, "Dear Yao. When you opened this letter, I was already on my way to Yunnan. This will be our third home. Fate is truly wonderful." My sister gave the boy a lift. "We truly have become an inseparable family. We've been close to each other for 10 years, closer than any blood ties. Honestly, I don't know why I need to write this letter. I feel like I have a lot to say, but I don't know how to express it, but I hope you understand. Life should always be focused on moving forward. My sister doesn't want you to be like that. She hopes you'll truly be happy in your final days," she said quietly to me. "I hope you'll find someone who truly loves you in the future. Yao, don't be afraid, open your heart and embrace your new life. I will always be your closest family member, so next time you come, be sure to stop by and see me. I must have planted a whole courtyard of flowers to welcome you. I will always love you like a candy dish." I shook my heart with both hands. My older brother's tears remained on the paper of the letter. I also carefully wiped away the dry tears. I put the letter paper on the table and put it away for safekeeping. A month later, the house was tidied up. Flowers were planted. In a small house in front of the wolf, 2 small cats are quietly basking in the sun. I'm lying on a swing. Someone called me and said I accidentally posted my diary on Weibo. Ask me if I'm ready to publish this. I started Weibo back in high school. I'd record moments from my daily life. Whenever I was tired from studying, I'd post 2 Weibo posts to relax. This habit continued until Tang Wan got sick. I didn't think about it anymore. I no longer used Weibo accounts. I thought about it and agreed. I logged into a Weibo account that's been circulating online for a while now. I started reminiscing about our meeting and our lives. The memories are too long, sometimes they're blurry. Looking back on Weibo, I realize how vibrant and alive we were throughout this entire time. It turns out Tang Wan couldn't cook at first. We gradually stopped being kitchen killers. I almost set the kitchen on fire once. Then Tang Nguyen poured a basin of water on me and called me a transparent bride. In winter, Tang Nguyen didn't start with makeup. She studied etiquette first. The boss thought he'd be fine. He used himself as a training model. He cut the boss into pieces, after which he was fired. At first, I had bad grades. I just returned to school because I couldn't cope. I only got a 16 on my first monthly math test. I hid the test in my backpack. I'm still in shock about Tang Nguyen. He laughed at me for 6 months. I turned the page on Weibo and laughed and laughed. Finally, I laughed until I cried. This is amazing. Time flies, but we have countless warm memories. I picked up my pen again, determined to finish the story from our first meeting to the end. In this story, we saved up enough money and headed to a windy spot to settle down. Every gust of wind would fill the yard with flowers, and we would be whisked away to the bright future the sugar bowl spoke of. Finally, we've reached the point where I want to give this book a beautiful title. I've been thinking about it for 2 or 3 days and decided that none of the titles are suitable. Then I came across a phrase I liked. An old body and mind are free, the heart never ages, just call it spring and fall. These are 10 years of spring and autumn that the 3 of us spent together. I sent the middle island. Closing the notebook, I realized that today is a good day again. I opened the window and the flowers fluttered in the wind. The sugar bowl and sugar bowl were flooded with sunlight. I smiled at the window. Tang Wan, Tang Wan. The flowering season is approaching. When the flowers will bloom in the garden the next day when the wind rises, we will definitely meet again. Quan Wenwen Li Xia Fan Lai. I should have some similarities with Tang Wan, but these similarities are not enough for Tang Yao to live long enough. Otherwise, he would not have lived long enough for anyone other than Tang Wan. She was always very cheerful and sincerely loved Tang Wan. This love fills me with great admiration. She only mistook me twice, both times due to illness. The first time was when she had been married for only 6 months. She took Han Yu out for a walk and suddenly it started raining in the middle of the day. She put on her coat to cover Han Yu and hugged her all the way home. Han Yu was okay. But she got sick. Tang Yao, while she was sick, was also very quiet, didn't cry, didn't bother anyone, and endured the pain. She was always like this, but in the middle of the night I constantly heard her crying. I knocked on the door for no reason, just crying. I thought about it, but I pushed the door anyway. She didn't wake up. It must have been a dream that upset her. I couldn't wake up. I was crying in my bed. I want to wake her up. The moment she opened her eyes, she suddenly fell into my arms. She cried and screamed all night, sobbing so hard that for the first time I saw her break down. I don't know who could have hurt her so much. I could only console her. She cried and fell asleep. I didn't care. I just thought she hadn't woken up and was mistaken about someone. But a week later, after lunch, she fell asleep on the couch. I went over to cover her with a blanket, but I accidentally saw her phone screen. The photo was of a woman. The lower half of her face was accidentally covered by Tang Yao's hand. The eyes that were visible looked very much like mine. I remember that night she hugged me and shouted, "Tang Wang." The teacher said I was angry at the time and should be treated like a substitute teacher. No one will be good, but I have no right to be angry. I'll choose her because she's like Han Tian. In the end, we're all the same. They have bad intentions, but fortunately they're not waiting for each other. I want to forget about it, but people aren't grass. There are feelings that are divided into those of relatives and loved ones. Accompanying and missing people on a moonlit night. How to choose two? The brain always reacts very quickly. I also forgot when this began. After I saw him, I no longer remember Han Tian. I know this very well. This is Tang Yao. He is completely different from Han Tian. Han Tian is full of ambition, while Tang Yao is full of life. He's always kind and gentle. There's always a smile in his eyes. It's always easy with him. I started to worry. 3 years after the agreement was signed, he'll be leaving. After all, he had his own heart. I personally checked his personal relationships. At that time, I knew that Tang Wan had died. Furthermore, if Tang Wan was still alive, I also wanted to know if he was still alive. He won't want to be my husband. I can't describe the feeling I experienced at that moment. I took a deep breath, and at the same time, I felt sad. But in the end, all my feelings merged. I tried my best to keep him close. In fact, I had already found Han Tian at an auction abroad 6 months ago. He had changed his name and identity. But he's still the best jewelry designer. Zhang Yang's unbridled boldness is also rare. What once attracted me most no longer evokes any emotion. We're frank, I haven't spoken about this before, just as a friend, just Hang Xuan. That night I took a couple of diamonds. I was thinking about Tang Yao. I can't find a way to send this. I don't know how to open my mouth. Until that night when he told me about the divorce, I thought this day would come. Suddenly, I regret that this was written only 3 years ago. I never thought about how quickly 3 years flew by. My first reaction was rejection. Then I ran away, not wanting to listen. Finally, I gave her a ring. She refused. I wasn't surprised. I just didn't want to give in until she recognized me a second time. She didn't say anything. But the moment she looked me in the eye, I realized she was thinking of Tang Wan. I must be crazy. I wish she treated me like Tang Wan. But if she can stay like that, it's not so bad. Too bad.